Now, the Imo State Government says it is tackling unemployment with a new initiative called One Kindred, One Business, otherwise popularly known as Okobi. The program encourages families to set up group businesses while the state provides support and startup funds. Officials say more than 400 businesses have already been registered, engaging over 10,000 people in just 18 months. Now, the state's chief economic advisor noted that about half of Imo's young people are jobless. He warned this could be dangerous if not addressed. Now, at the second Okobi Summit held at Kingsley Ozumba University, leaders called the program a step towards sustainable growth and greater opportunities for young people in the state. Well, it's time now to discuss how Imo State's government's Okobi initiative is revolutionizing and transforming small and medium enterprises in the state. Dr. Kenneth Amaeshi, economic advisor for Imo State, joins us now from Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us today on Newsday. Now, of course, a very, very pivotal point. It is important to create employment opportunities to the young people. But now, in terms of the system on how this works, I think it's important we begin by understanding what the Okobi initiative is about. If you could just give us that foundation.
Thank you for having me. The Okobi, O-K-O-B-I, simply means One Kindred, One Business initiative, and is the initiative of the Imo State Government under the leadership of distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma to address first unemployment and to empower communities. So, and it's a philosophy or a movement that taps into an Igbo culture of communal existence. In our local areas, people are used to coming together and carrying out or executing social projects, such as town halls, churches, roads, rural electricity, and so on and so forth. But what we haven't done so much is to transfer that communal social capital, as you may wish, to create business ventures. And the One Kindred, One Business initiative is an attempt to tap into what is already there to support our people to create their own businesses. We are not depending on foreign direct investments coming in. We are not depending on government, but we are challenging people, encouraging them to create their own jobs. So Imo State, unfortunately, is a victim of our own success. The literacy rate in the state is high. We have a lot of graduates. So, and these graduates can actually pull themselves together through the Okobi movement to create their own opportunities. And the government is there to support, provide assistance, and handholding to those who would like to take up the opportunity.
Now, I love the fact that you did highlight that you're not relying on any foreign direct investment for this. How would you say the funding for Okobi is being compiled, is being put together? You know, what are the different sources that it is pulling from? And furthermore, in terms of, you know, how it's being disbursed, how does each family or each kindred become a part of this program?
Okay, there are 5 criteria to qualify as an Okobi business. One, it has to be a registered business, so that way we are addressing informality. 2, it has to be group owned. So it's not about one person, one job, or one business. So it's about group entrepreneurship. The third one is that it has to be profit oriented. So it is not charity, it's not a social club, it's a proper business. And the fourth one is that it has to be employment oriented. Remember, the key thing is that we want to address unemployment and empower people economically. And the fifth point, which is very important, is that it has to be place-based. And place-based here means that in the case of Imo State, it has to be in Imo State. So foreign direct investments are great, but if given the number of unemployed people, we wouldn't completely depend on foreign direct investment. That's the point I'm making. But in terms of the funding or the financing of it, the groups involved can start. Say, for example, if you have 5 million naira, 10 million naira, a kindred can start that sort of business. And people can, just to give you an instance, many people in diaspora, and the diaspora here might include people in Lagos or Abuja and further afield, they send money home from time to time. So instead of giving people fish, we teach them how to fish. So we believe that there is money in every kindred, and this is one way to unlock the opportunity, to unlock the capital embedded in every kindred in Imo State. So they start first before the government comes in. Otherwise, we want to avoid a situation whereby people may see it as their own share of the national cake, so to speak, but we want them first to show commitment by putting their own resources into it, and then the government will come in. As we speak, the government is conducting a number of competitions, grant, free money that people can tap into, but only those that have established as Okobi businesses are qualified to participate in this competition. The government is also sending business development support consultants to different communities and is willing to support them from idea generation to a bankable project, including business registration, and the government is doing it completely free. So we're providing technical assistance, hand-holding beyond just capital. But this is just to make these Okobi businesses investment ready. Because one thing is to say there is money, but they are not ready. They are not at the point where they can access this money. We've seen instances where loans, say for example, the Bank of Industry has a cheap loan of a single digit, but we're not seeing a lot of businesses taking advantage of that because they are not investment ready. So what Imo State is doing at the moment is to ensure that these businesses receive the technical support they require to enable them get ready when the government eventually supports them through soft loans and other arrangements that the government is considering.
Okay, as of June 2025, you did state that there have been over 400 firms with 10,000 members as at June, and that's a significant increase from earlier this year where there were about 350 plus businesses with about 7,000 members. So there are a lot of people that are diving into this, but I'm curious with regards to the nature of the businesses that you would say makes up a large majority of what is being created. Of course, within the peculiarities of Imo State, the available infrastructure as it pertains to cost of running a business, access to electricity, access to location, access to resources, or whatever the peculiarities of the Imo State are. What would you say are the major businesses that are being set up by these groups? And in terms of ownership, do you get involved in the structure of these businesses, or are shares and, the legalities of owning and running a company determined solely by the business owner?
First, we try to meet people where they are. So we don't go to them with prepared solutions. So we work with them. It's about facilitation. It's about guiding them from ideas, looking at what they can do in their localities, looking at their passion and competence, because you may be passionate about something, but you're not competent about it. And also guiding them to thinking about different governance models. So there are instances where a family or two can provide the leadership required for the community to move on. So we guide them. We have different options. We are very flexible. But the main thing is that there are existing frameworks that can be used. For example, we have the Imo State Trade and Investment Ministry, where the cooperative department is housed. So those that are qualified to be cooperatives can access that model. But we can also help them register with the Corporate Affairs Commission as group-owned businesses, limited liability companies. So they have different options. It can also be partnership. So we are not prescriptive, but we meet them where they are and remain flexible enough to accommodate their different interests. So in terms of where we see a lot of businesses coming forward, I would say mainly agribusiness, because some of these businesses are in the rural areas. They are traditionally given to agribusiness, but they are not formalized. So what we are doing in Imo State here is to formalize the informal sector. And if you look at it from the Nigerian perspective, the informal sector constitutes about 50–60% of our GDP. So, and if we don't do anything about formalizing the informal sector, we are building what I may call a baseless economy. So one way to create a good foundation for our national economy is to go back and see what we can do with the informal sector. And Imo State is taking the lead here through the leadership of distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma to recognize that we need to really strengthen our informal sector, formalize them, and leverage that to prepare for both financial inclusion and building a sustainable and inclusive economy.
That's amazing. I do have to go back to the accountability factor here, because like you rightly said, this is an initiative of the governor, Hope Uzodinma. In terms of the trail of the funding, you know, as to where the funds come from, on average, how much would a business get typically from this project? Say I set up a company now, I have a group of 5 people, we do have a small agriculture business at whatever level, whether we are, you know, we're farming, we're doing poultry, we're planting yams, whatever level it is. On average, how much is each company looking for, or do we just ask for what we want and it could be made available and there's no cap to it? And where are these funds coming from? What accountability measures on both sides, the government and the people, are being put in place to ensure this succeeds?
That's a very good question. So I have to repeat that in terms of funding, the government is not giving anyone money at this point in time. What the government is doing is to encourage communities to create their own businesses and also provide technical assistance. So we want to get them first to the point where they are bankable. Before then, the government can come in with possible loans, maybe through the state microfinance bank or other financial options that the government may have. But this is not about the government funding businesses. This is about teaching ourselves how to fish, so preparing communities to be able to generate their own resources. As I mentioned earlier too, these communities already have resources embedded in them. And say, for example, if you want to do a business of 10 million naira, you can find 2, 3, 4, 5 people that can each contribute 2 million naira and you have a business. My own Kindred, we have done it, and there are others also who have done it. So the examples are there, and we have our consultants who are willing to help different communities come up with options on how to address this. So it's not just about the government giving money, but there are also banks that are beginning to look in this direction, investors that are prepared to work with these Okobi businesses, and even business angels. And we have receiving a lot of attention, even from development agencies that are willing to provide some kind of soft loan and grant to these Okobi businesses. So it's not completely dependent on the government, and that's what we want to avoid, because the tenure of Senator Hope Uzodinma will one day come to an end. But we want this project to continue as an initiative, as a movement that has a life of its own, that's not dependent on any particular government. And it's also something that can apply to other states in Imo State, in the southeast of Nigeria, because they share similar traditional structures in Igbo land, and the Igbos are known for working together. Even this whole idea about the apprenticeship that is being promoted in Anambra can also lend itself well to this way of thinking through group ownership and community-owned business structures. So, and beyond the southeast, you can also find it in other parts of Nigeria. The southwest, they're known for also having large cooperatives. In the northwest, in the northeast, and just to mention that also, this idea is beginning to gain traction beyond Nigeria. We recently conducted a piece of research at the New Institute in Germany, where the Europeans are beginning to show interest in this, and some development agencies are looking at how they can use the Imo State model in other parts of Africa and also other parts of the world that may have similar development challenges.
All right, well, Professor Kenneth Amaeshi, the economic advisor for Imo State, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this issue.